Would like to take a moment here at the beginning of the video to wish all of the men in my audience who are fathers a very happy Father's Day. I hope you had an opportunity to kick back a little bit, perhaps with a frosty cold beverage of your choice, surrounded by family and friends and loved ones. It's one of those unique holidays where the person being celebrated, rather than being waited on or being doted on, would rather perhaps take the lead. How many dads out there do you know that would let anybody touch the grill? Or perhaps if they had gotten the cliche tie, would not more enjoy showing, perhaps the younger men around, all of the different knots that he knew how to tie with that tie rather than just wearing the tie himself. It's part of male culture, masculine culture, that we are losing in this country and losing quickly. I think it's a very telling thing that on Father's Day, there's an article out that I'm going to share that is a little bit disturbing about how this particular part of our culture, of our life, is being demonized more and more every day. You see, this is the part that's probably going to bother some folks. You see, to be a father, if you're here, you had a dad. If you're here, you had a father. And your father, more than likely, approached your mother and began talking to her with more than just the intent of being her friend. I mean, of course, he was polite, perhaps bought her a drink, and listened to what she had to say, but not because that was his primary interest. Not that it wasn't interesting, and not that he didn't respect her. But today, things have gotten confused, where the vast majority of men now, younger men, think that approaching a woman and talking to her is just about being friends, ad on infinitum, for the rest of your life. And there's a lot of women that have encouraged this, and it's caused a problem. Do you know what would happen if your father had just approached your mom, or your grandpa had approached your grandma, with no ulterior motive? You know where we'd be right now? Collapsed world population. Because that's what makes dad a dad. You ready for this? Ulterior motive is what made dad dad. And grandpa grandpa. This is what our cities would look like. There would be no people anywhere. How many of you have seen the stories, I'm sure a lot of dads out there have, where some archaeologist somewhere has dug up this old city that was abandoned, and they can't figure out why. And they speculate about all the different reasons. None of them ever bring up the idea. It's like, I wonder if they just stopped having kids. I wonder if they just stopped having interest in each other to the extent where babies were being born. Now, in the honor of Father's Day, sorry this took 3 minutes and 15 seconds to get to, guys are simple. Having babies is not a difficult thing to instigate, ladies. It truly isn't. But the way it's being gone about today is exactly backwards. Some of the pictures you're seeing here, believe it or not, are 30 plus years old. You have to go back quite a ways to see things that perhaps your dad or grandpa would have spent $5 on a magazine to see. You see, sometimes grilling out, barbecuing is more about the flavor of the burger than perhaps attracting large groups of people with, here it is, that ulterior motive that creates new generations of human beings. Not everything can be so sanitary and so planned. And of course, I'm sure a lot of people are like, you know what? I never thought about it that way. I never thought about, wow, grandpa approached grandma and talked to her, and he had something on his mind that didn't involve talking. And therefore, all of my parents and aunts and uncles were all born, and then they all did the exact same thing. And lo and behold, here we are, but it's battlefield of the mind. We talk about this kind of stuff in more detail over at the Florida Monkey Patreon channel, where we can take the gloves off and we don't have to resort to just, well, PG-13 images. We can show things, and that's bothered a few folks over there. I've had folks show up at the Patreon channel, pay their $1, and go, wow, I am uncomfortable with the paradigm that creates children. And they leave. And that's fine. Everybody to each their own. But there's articles out there now that are painting our future in a very, very stark picture. Now, real quick, before we go to all the bad news, would like to share a website. It's called the artofmanliness.com. I shared it before a long time ago, and it's about all things male. Everything from tying a tie to properly cooling beverages to outdoor stuff. Everything, if you're a guy and you like guy stuff, it's just like it sounds, ARTOFMANLINESS. Artofmanliness.com. And it's a really great website. Now, here's a couple of life lessons. Sometimes the hardest battle is against yourself. Don't forget, material things can be lost. But who you become, no one can take away. You see, once you're a dad, you're always a dad. And many of the battles that dads fight, they fight within themselves that nobody's talking about. Now, remember all of the talk, lots of different websites, lots of different YouTube channels last few days talking about, including this one, the House, the U.S. House of Representatives, passing a defense bill that automatically registers all men 18 to 26 for the draft. You see, before you had to, when you turned 18, go physically, manually do this. It was a rite of passage. You know, older men in your sphere would say, look, you're going to turn 18. You got to go do this. I had to do it when I was 18. But now, for some reason, there's such a problem. They've got to do it automatically through driver's license rolls and different state rolls of young men. It's a problem. Well, guess what? Lo and behold, 15 June 2024, 23:44 hours. American men shunning the U.S. Army. Wait until you hear why. See, there's all sorts of reasons that people have about, and we've talked about it at this channel, about not trusting the U.S. military, but it's for different reasons now. The nation's males have reportedly lost interest in military service as they increasingly withdraw from society. American men have reportedly lost interest in military service as they increasingly withdraw from society more broadly, driving the persistent shortfalls in U.S. Army recruiting and raising the nation's reliance on female troops. Male enlistment in the United States has plunged 35% in the last 10 years, dropping from 58,000 in 2013 to 37,700 last year. That's U.S. Army recruiting data. That's catastrophic. At the same time, female enlistments held steady at around 10,000. Declines in the number of men who are willing to sign up for military service have left the Army unable to meet its recruiting quotas. And they go through all the number here. U.S. Representative here from Florida, Matt Gaetz, got it right, along with other conservative politicians, when they blamed the recruiting crisis on woke ideology, emphasizing such criteria as race, gender, and sexual orientation at the expense of readiness to fight wars. Military.com report noted that beyond cultural issues, expert pointed to broader issues with American men, including a national crisis of masculinity. U.S. men are also disappearing from the workforce. It has to do with social change. There is an amotivational syndrome that permeates young men. They're just not motivated to do very much. Well, to be very honest, I can't blame them. And it's really prevalent among white males. It's really incredible, the drop. 61.7% of the military, white males in 2011, down to 53.5 now, and dropping. I'm not going to read all this for you. We've talked about this ad nauseum. Most U.S. soldiers obese or overweight. You see, I can have the conversation for you and explain exactly what's going on. When you talk to Gen Z or younger about how babies are made, here's going to be their response. Wait. You did what? Where on her? You wait, hold on. So you were dating and you were hanging out, and then you went in the bed and you did what? Where? Oh, ew. That sounds kind of gross. Don't you have a hobby? Don't you have a PlayStation? Don't you have an Xbox? I mean, that sounds like an awful mess. And wait. She's gonna go through what for the next 9 months? It's gonna do what to her body? Why would you do that to your friend? Why would you do that to your friend? That's horrible. You must not like her at all. That's gross. I mean, just go to sleep. Just watch Netflix and go to sleep. Sound familiar? I mean, if it's really that bad, that's what the internet is for. This is what Gen Z men believe. This is how they act. They don't get it. You see, if I came out right now and said that having babies is really truly a form of socialism, people would, oh, I can't believe. Well, think about it. It costs money. It costs a lot of money. And at least initially for mom and dad, it is not particularly profitable, is it, to have kids? You're broke all the time. You're tired all the time. Your house is a mess all the time. You're broke. Kids are expensive. And initially in those first few years, yeah, you have some joyous moments, but you can't really explain that. You see, we live in a world now where if this event occurred and some woman decided to pull out her phone and take this picture, this guy on the right would lose his job. No lie. This is the world we live in right now. You see, it wasn't like this in the 80s and 90s when you could show pictures like this and people wouldn't get offended. I still get comments from primarily women who get all bent out of shape when I show pictures like this, that somehow it's salacious. We are in a demographic crisis right now where we're not even at the replacement rate in this country for making babies. And you're worried about this? You see, I could probably, I know we're 13 minutes in here, and I'm probably going to have to do it over at Patreon the next video. Talk about back in the 90s when a lot of us straight guys got taken to task by a lot of straight women when we said, hey, it's not a real good idea for you to be hanging out with gay guys. You know, in fact, it's stopping language. If you want to continue to date, I'm not going to date you if you have gay friends, because I'm not going to be able to marry you and have kids knowing that if I'm at work one day, you could have I'm not having your gay friend around my kids. And you told us, oh my God, you are so horrible. You're a blah, blah, blah phobe. You're a blah, blah, blah phobe. I can't believe you this. I can't believe you that. Well, guess what? Here we are. We have an entire generation of men that have now been brought up to see women as just friends. Oh, and they're wonderful listeners. They are. They're great listeners. And man, they have really good style and they work out at the gym all the time. That's where all of their energy goes. A lot of women are like, boy, these guys are really in shape. And gosh, they look great and all this kind of stuff and blah, 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 blah. Where do you think all their energy goes? Not to having kids. Not to being dads. And you have all that extra time, you can do that. You can spend 3 to 5 hours a day in the gym. You can eat right all the time. But you're not going to make babies. I can't believe this nice guy was thinking that. They seem like such a sweet couple. I can't believe he had that ulterior motive. Well, guess what, kids? If you're here If you're here, your dad had that ulterior motive with your mom. And both of their parents, the same thing. And all of their parents, the same thing. Yeah, it's great to have a conversation. Yeah, you can talk about all sorts of things. But if that's your only goal, well, guess what's going to happen? That's where we're at. You don't have to like it, but the numbers are what the numbers are. We're not even at the replacement rate. There are places in the world where that's not the case. But opening up that can of worms, boy, I tell you what, we could go an hour on that. It is tied to capitalism. Because anybody who's been a parent, please support me down in the comment section. Yeah, if me and my mate we had gotten married and we would have had a lot more money. We would have a lot more money. We'd be able to travel. We've been able to do all these different things. We had kids. And, we weren't poor, I guess, but boy, there were some tight months. There were some times when things weren't all that great, and we were tired all the time, and we didn't get to go do things our other single friends got to go do. It's part of being a dad, part of being a mom too. Ulterior motives, so that the world doesn't collapse. But we're down a road now that it's rough. So, as a gift, of course, to all of the dads out there, since it's Father's Day, I'm going to just leave this image up for about a minute or so at the end of the video and let you soak it in. This is, of course, Amanda Tapping from Stargate on the left, Marina Baccarin from, V, and she was also in a few other sci-fi things. Pardon my voice here. This is model Carlotta Champagne, and this one in the middle is just 3 random girls in Florida. So anyway, enjoy. Happy Father's Day. God bless. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.